The morning sunlight spilled through the glass walls of my penthouse, turning the steam from my coffee into golden mist. The city below hummed softly, like a life I once begged to be part of, but now watched from above. I ran my fingers along the rim of my mug, feeling the warmth seep into my skin. Funny, a year ago, I was counting coins in the grocery store checkout line. Now, I could buy the whole building if I wanted. But money doesn't silence memories. My phone buzzed on the marble counter, its vibration cutting through the quiet. The name on the screen made my chest tighten. Lily, stepdaughter. I hadn't heard from her since the night she screamed that I'd ruined her father's life. I almost laughed. Now she wanted to talk. I let it ring once.
Twice.
Then curiosity won. I swiped to answer. Madison, she said, her tone too sweet, too careful. Dad and I were wondering if we could stop by, just to talk things through.
Talk.
That word again. It used to mean apologize. Now it meant negotiate. I glanced out the window, to where the space needles shimmered in the distance. I thought of the letter I'd tucked into my drawer the night I bought that lottery ticket, a note that said, "If life ever gives me a miracle, I'll never let them use it against me." Well, life had kept its promise. And now it was time for me to keep mine. There was a time when I thought love could fix anything. When I believed that kindness, patience, and effort could make a blended family feel whole. When I married Daniel, I didn't marry into wealth. I married into complication. His daughter, Lily, was 20, entitled, and trained by her mother to hate me before I ever spoke a word. I still remember the first dinner we all had together. I wore my favorite blue dress, the one I bought on clearance, thinking it looked respectable. Lily arrived late, scrolling through her phone, barely glancing at me. Daniel didn't notice. He was too busy asking her about her classes, her plans, her life. When I tried to join in, she looked up, eyes sharp. "Madison, you don't have to pretend to care," she said, her lips curling. "I know you're just trying." The air went still. Daniel chuckled awkwardly, as if her cruelty were just immaturity. That was how it always went. Lily snapped, and Daniel defended her. Weeks turned into months. I cooked, cleaned, worked overtime to pay bills that weren't even mine. Lily still treated me like a stranger renting a room in her father's house. And Daniel, he called it family tension. The night everything broke, it was raining. I just lost my job. The bills were stacked high. I came home early and overheard them in the kitchen. Lily crying, Daniel whispering, "She's just jealous of you, sweetheart. She'll never understand us." When I walked in, they both froze. Daniel's face turned pale, but he didn't deny it. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed my keys, my purse, and the small silver locket my grandmother gave me before she passed, a tiny heart with her initials carved on the back. She used to tell me, "Don't let anyone make you small, Maddie. The moment they do, walk away, even if your knees shake." My knees were shaking now. I looked at Daniel one last time. "You'll regret this," I said quietly. "Not because you'll lose me, but because one day you'll realize what loyalty really looked like." Then I walked out into the storm. No plan, no savings, just a locket, a car half full of gas, and the faintest whisper of freedom. That night, in a dim motel room off Interstate 5, I bought a $1 lottery ticket. Not because I believed I'd win, but because for the first time, I wanted to believe in something again. The morning after I left, Daniel felt like waking up inside a different life. The motel sheets smelled like bleach, my phone was buzzing with unpaid bills, and my stomach ached from hunger. Still, I'd never felt so alive. I didn't have much, just a change of clothes, my grandmother's locket, and that crumpled lottery ticket tucked inside my wallet. I almost threw it away, thinking, what's the point? But something, maybe that last thread of hope, told me to hold on. 3 days later, while waiting in line at a gas station, I handed the ticket to the clerk. He scanned it, then froze. "Ma'am," he whispered, eyes wide, "you might want to step aside for this." When the numbers flashed on the screen, I didn't scream or faint like they do in movies. I just stared. The world went quiet. My fingers tingled. $240 million. It didn't even feel real. The man behind me muttered, "You okay?" And I nodded slowly, smiling through tears. For the first time in my life, I was free. But freedom came with lessons. The first one? Silence is power. I hired a financial advisor, a calm, sharp woman named Evelyn Grant who looked like she'd walked out of a Fortune 500 meeting. She didn't treat me like a charity case. She treated me like a woman who had choices. "You can build a life quietly," Evelyn told me. "Or you can burn out showing everyone what they missed. Which one do you want?" I chose quiet. We set up trusts, investments, foundations. I learned about stocks, real estate, philanthropy. My nights were long and lonely, but filled with purpose. I wasn't the invisible wife anymore. I was Madison Hale, investor, donor, silent owner of 2 thriving wellness centers across Washington. I bought a modest apartment first, then slowly expanded, never flashing my wealth, never posting about it. Daniel and Lily didn't even know I'd left town. My social media stayed blank except for an occasional coffee photo or a quote about healing. There were days when I missed the warmth of companionship, the sound of someone's laughter filling the space. But every time loneliness tried to creep in, I'd touch the silver locket and remind myself, peace over pity, always. One night, as I watched the city lights flicker outside my window, Evelyn's words echoed again. "You don't need to prove anything, Madison. Real power doesn't shout, it shines." I smiled, lifting a glass of wine in quiet celebration. No one knew that the woman behind those lights had turned her pain into fortune, her heartbreak into empire. And as I stared at the moon reflecting off the glass, I whispered to myself, "They thought they broke me, but they just cleared the path." When they arrived, I almost didn't recognize them. Daniel looked older, heavier. The sharpness in his eyes, the one that used to make me shrink, had dulled. Lily, now 23, walked in behind him, wearing a designer coat that screamed more debt than success. The doorman buzzed me before letting them up. I could have said no, but I wanted to see what desperation looked like when it wore the face of the people who once pitied me. My penthouse door opened to the scent of white lilies and vanilla candles. The city shimmered beyond the glass walls, Seattle's skyline glowing like quiet applause. Daniel's jaw slackened when he stepped inside. "This is yours?" he asked, eyes scanning the marble floors, the art, the view. I smiled politely.
Yes.
"I like things simple." Lily gave a dry laugh. "Simple? Madison, this looks like a magazine spread." She said my name like it tasted sour. They sat on the sofa I imported from Italy, awkward and unsure. Daniel tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We just wanted to talk," he said. "We've heard things. About you. About some money." I took a slow sip of tea, letting the silence stretch until it hurt. "What things?" He shifted. "The lottery. Someone said you won." I finished for him, setting my cup down gently.
Yes.
$240 million, actually. The sound of porcelain against glass felt louder than their gasps. Daniel's face turned pale. Lily blinked, jaw dropping. For a second, I saw something raw flicker in her eyes, not happiness for me, not even surprise. Just calculation. "I can't believe you didn't tell us," Daniel muttered. "After everything, we were family." "Family?" I echoed softly. "Daniel, when I was in that house, you let your daughter treat me like a stranger. I was never your family. I was your convenience." Lily leaned forward, voice trembling. "You could at least help us. Dad lost his business, and I'm trying to finish my degree. You have more money than you'll ever need." Her words hit the air like tiny daggers, guilt wrapped in entitlement. I walked toward the window, my reflection glowing in the glass. "Lily, when I was your age, I worked double shifts to pay off Daniel's debts. I bought groceries with coins. You watched me struggle and you laughed."
"That was years ago," she snapped.
"Things change." "Yes," I said quietly. "They do." I turned to face them fully, the skyline behind me blazing gold. "Do you know what it feels like to walk away with nothing? To rebuild your life from ashes and still be told you owe someone your peace?" Neither spoke. I reached for the silver locket around my neck and opened it. Inside was a tiny photo of my grandmother, smiling. She told me once, "Don't let anyone make you small." I didn't understand what that meant until I met both of you. Lily's eyes filled with tears, though I wasn't sure if they were real. "So that's it? You're just gonna let us drown?" I tilted my head slightly. "No, Lily. I'm going to let you swim." Daniel's lips parted to argue, but I raised a hand. "You taught me something valuable. That love without respect is just control. I won't give you control over me again." The silence after that was heavy, the kind that ends things. When they finally stood to leave, Lily mumbled, "You've changed." I smiled.
No.
I just finally met myself. The elevator doors closed behind them, and the echo of their footsteps faded down the hall. I turned back to the window, the city glittering like a secret only I understood. For the first time, the view didn't feel distant. It felt like mine. They called again 2 days later. I didn't answer the first 3 times, but by the 4th, I was curious. Daniel's voice was low, tired. "Madison, please. Can we just talk? One more time." Against my better judgment, I agreed, but this time, I chose the place. Not my penthouse. Not neutral ground. I picked the Cascade Foundation, the nonprofit I'd quietly built to help women rebuild their lives after financial abuse. When they arrived, they didn't know it was mine. They just saw the glass office, the busy staff, the wall of framed photos of smiling women, each one of them given a second chance because someone believed in them. Daniel looked around. "So, you work here?" I smiled faintly. "I own it." He blinked. "You what?" "This is where I put my money," I said, folding my hands. "Where it actually means something." Lily crossed her arms. "So, what about us? You're really going to give strangers help but not your own family?" The word family again. It didn't sting this time. It just sounded small. "I will help you," I said slowly, watching their faces lift with hope. "But not the way you think." I reached into my bag and pulled out 2 envelopes. Inside are my terms. Daniel opened his first. His eyes skimmed the page, confusion spreading. "You want me to go to therapy?"
Yes.
"Weekly. For 6 months. You need to understand why you always choose control over love. And when you finish, I'll fund the business course you've been talking about for years." But not before. He didn't answer. His pride wouldn't let him. Then I turned to Lily. "Yours is simpler." She hesitated before opening hers. "You'll start working here if you choose. Administrative part-time. Minimum wage. You'll earn your own money for a year. After that, if you've saved even half of it, I'll match it and pay for your final semester." Her mouth fell open. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," I said softly. "You want my money? Prove you can respect what money means." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "Madison, this is humiliating." I stood. "No, Daniel. This is healing. Humiliation is when you make someone beg for love. I'm giving you both something better, a chance to stand on your own." He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time in years, I saw something that almost resembled remorse. "I don't hate you," I said gently. "I just outgrew the version of myself that needed you to love her." Lily's eyes glistened. "You really won't just give it?" I smiled, the kind that comes from peace, not pride. "No, Lily. Because if I handed it to you, you'd think I owed you. But if you earn it, you'll understand why I didn't." The meeting ended quietly. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just silence, the kind that comes when people finally see the reflection they've been avoiding. As they left, Evelyn stepped out from her office, raising a brow. "That was brave," she said. "It wasn't bravery," I replied. "It was closure, wrapped in conditions." 6 months later, a letter arrived. Handwritten, the paper creased and smudged, like someone had folded it too many times before finding the courage to send it. It was from Lily. "I started at the foundation, like you said. It was hard at first. People didn't care who my dad was or what I used to have. They just cared if I showed up. And I did. Every day. I don't know if I'll ever be like you, but I think I understand now why you walked away. You didn't leave to hurt us. You left to save yourself. I stared at the letter for a long time. No apology. No flattery. Just truth. And somehow that was enough. Later that evening, Evelyn came by with a bottle of red wine. We sat on my balcony, the city lights flickering below us. She's learning, Evelyn said softly, glancing at the letter in my hand. So am I whispered. She smiled. Do you ever miss them? I thought about that. About Daniel's laugh, the way I used to plan dinners hoping for peace, the woman I once was, desperate for their approval. I miss who I thought they could be, I said. But I don't miss who I had to become to please them. Evelyn nodded knowingly. Freedom's funny like that. It doesn't come from winning the lottery. It comes from deciding what you won't pay for anymore. I laughed quietly. That's one I'll quote in my next speech. She raised her glass. To miracles that look like endings. I clinked mine against hers. And to beginnings that finally feel like peace. After she left, I stood alone on the balcony. The city's heartbeat pulsed beneath me, distant, constant, alive. I reached for my silver locket, thumb tracing the initials carved on the back. Don't let anyone make you small. For a long time, I thought that meant fighting louder. But now I knew it meant standing taller, even in silence. I smiled to myself, the wind brushing my hair across my face, and whispered into the night, softly, firmly, with the kind of certainty only freedom gives. They wanted my money. What they didn't realize, I'd already won something far greater, myself.